Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar Combination Medical Devices in 2015. My name is Sam Shakir and I am the Certification Project Manager here at GMed North America. In this webinar I will be talking about the classification of combination products, important actors, the different definitions of medical devices, medicinal products, combined medical devices, important analysis for combination products, how combination products are evaluated and the documents to be submitted by the company. The requirements for this type of medical devices needs to be explained to simplify the different steps required per the procedure for the assessment of combination medical devices in order to pursue the CE certification. And hopefully after this webinar, the manufacturer will be able to understand the different medical devices definitions and how the evaluation is done for combination medical devices. As usual, we will have about 10 minutes at the end of the presentation for questions. While I'm talking, you can type in your question either into the chat box or into the QA box that you see in your screen. We will do our best to answer as many questions as we can. If we cannot get to everyone, we will save them and answer them in the coming week or so. Also, we will publish the slides and send them to everyone who signed up for the webinar so that you have the slides as a reference. And with that, let's get started. My name is Sam Shakir and I am the Certification Project Manager at GMed North America. Let's talk about the agenda we will be covering today in this webinar. We will talk about introduction, definitions, how combination products are evaluated. In the introduction, we will talk about the classification of the combination products, important actors. In the definitions, we will talk about the important analysis for combination products, and on how combination products are evaluated, we will explain briefly documents to be submitted by the manufacturers. Let's start with the introduction to have some general information important to know. In this slide, we are talking about the key actor, roles and responsibilities. Notified body, it is the third-party conformity assessment bodies that perform conformity assessment for medical device. Competent authority, medical device, and drug regulators from each member state performs the conformity assessment for drugs. Let's talk here about the notified body role in the medical device market access and certification. The vast majority of medical device manufacturers who seek to sell their devices in Europe must work with notified bodies. Too many manufacturers for whom European is a brand new market, the regulatory scheme and the role of notified body are sometimes difficult to comprehend. This is because the European CE marking process is different from the medical device approval process in the United States, and a close comparison can be difficult without years of expertise in different regulatory areas. Let's explain the relationship between the notified body and its competent authority. Notified bodies play an important role in CE marking a medical device manufacturer's product, and the role that the competent authorities have underlined this importance. Competent authority continues assess notified bodies through communications and audits. Competent authorities may even accompany notified bodies on audits, sometimes in order to ensure the notified body follows the appropriate audit practices. Notified bodies report to the competent authorities of the member state that originally notifies the notified body. The methods and criteria for assessing notified bodies were clarified beyond the requirements for the directives in the best practices guidance issued by the Notified Body Operations Group (MBOG) and in their designating authorities handbook. Additionally, notified bodies must routinely communicate with the competent authorities regarding their assessment and the issued certificates. Notified bodies must communicate about the certificates they issue, modify, withdraw, or suspend, and for whom and which products. In addition, upon request, notified bodies must also provide any information about assessments performed supporting a certification decision. Finally, the notified bodies must also get an opinion from the competent authority as part of the assessment of a product that incorporates a drug, a human blood derivatives, or a blood or animal origin that is covered by Directive 2003/32 EC. The notified body must also inform the competent authority of any significant change in its organization, just as a medical device manufacturer is assessed by a notified body. Competent authorities also assess notified bodies. Now let's move to the following slide and explain the classification of combination medical devices. It is very important to classify the combination medical devices according to the medical device directives. As some of you may already know, there are four main medical device classifications according to the MDD from low to high risk. According to the MDD Annex 9 Rule 13, devices incorporating as an integral part a substance which, if used separately, can be considered to be a medicinal product and which is liable to act on the human body with ancillary action to that of the device are in Class 3. This is true even when the device without the drug is in a lower class. In another word, if we take an example of first aid plasters or adhesive wound dressings classified as 2A or 2B, depending on the intended use, but if the plasters or dressings are medicated, antiseptic pad, or antimicrobial agent added, then the classification according to the MDD will be changed to Class 3. In this section, I'll be talking about the different definitions of medical device, medicinal product, combined medical device, according to the Medical Devices Guidance Document, MedDev 2.13 Ref 3. In order to differentiate the terms medical device, medicinal products, combined medical devices, let's go in details to the definition of each one, as it's a bit more involved than simply combining a medical device and a medicinal product. Question to ask: how to consider the device a medical device? When the device is intended by its manufacturer to be used specifically for diagnostic and/or therapeutic purposes, and necessary for its purpose application, intended by the manufacturer to be used for human beings for the purpose of diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, treatment, or elevation of disease. Also used for human beings for the purpose of diagnosis, monitoring, treatment, elevation of or compensation for an injury or handicap, investigation, replacement or modification of the anatomy or of physiological process, and finally, control of conception. It's another example of medical devices. Also, the device that acts and does not achieve its principal intended action on the human body by pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic means, but which assist in its function by such means, considered a medical device. When I mention devices, I mean any instrument, apparatus, appliance, software, material, or other articles, whether used alone or in combination, including the software. Three examples of medical devices are given in this slide: the bone cements, dental filling materials, suture absorbable sutures. The medical devices act on the body in a physical way. There shouldn't be any modification in the body chemistry. And again, I mean the device should not achieve its principal intended action in or on the human body by pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic means, but which may assist in its function by such means. Another definition we need to know is the medicinal substances, the type of substances or combination of substances which may be used in or administered to human being either with a view to restoring, correcting, modifying physiological functions I mean treating or preventing disease in human beings. And here we see the difference between the medical devices and the medicinal substances. The function of the medicinal substances is by exerting a pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic action, or making a medical diagnosis, which is unlike the medical devices, should not achieve its principal intended action in or on the human body by pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic means, but may assist in its function by such means. In this slide, I am showing some examples for medicinal products. Antiseptic, including iodine compounds, which is the povidone iodine, chlorhexidine, hydrogen peroxide, acetic acid, and silver compounds. Topical antiseptics are antimicrobial agents that kill, inhibit, or reduce the number of microorganisms and are thought to be essential for wounds infection control. However, they have long and commonly been used on wounds to prevent or treat infection. Another example of medicinal products is the spermicidal preparation, contraceptive substance that destroys sperm inserted vaginally prior to intercourse to prevent pregnancy. Another one is fluoride dental preparation. This is also considered medicinal product which contains sodium fluoride such as toothpaste and mouthwash, can help to strengthen the tooth enamel and prevent tooth decay. We take another example, nuclear magnetic resonance enhancing agent. Also there's carrier solution to stabilize microbubbles. This is generally none that contrast is ultrasonic diagnostic is enhanced by presence of gas microbubble in the liquid, such as blood flowing through an object to be examined. For this purpose, these microbubbles can be produced outside the subject to be studied and then injected into the bloodstream. All these are examples of medicinal products. There is an important reminder that medicinal products have pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic characteristics and act on the body via pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic changes. The last definition in this webinar is the combined medical devices. Devices that incorporates as an integral part a substance which if used separately may be considered to be a medicinal product within the meaning of Article 1 of Medicinal Product Directive 2001/83 EC, which is liable to act upon the body with an ancillary action to the device. Let's move to the three conditions that must meet to consider the device a combination medical device. The first condition that has to be met in order to consider the device a combination medical devices. The substance, if used separately, may be considered to be a medicinal product. The substance is liable to act upon the human body. The action of this substance is ancillary to that of the device. Again, all these three conditions should be met in order to consider the device a combination medical devices, and this leads to a critical point the manufacturer should consider. The manufacturer has to demonstrate that the main action mode of the device associated to the substance is conducted by the device. The integrated substance just plays an ancillary role in the function of the device. In this slide, all the listed examples of medical devices incorporated medicinal substance. The medicinal substance is not the main mode of action for the product, the device is. The medicinal substance is there to help. The first example, we take catheters coated with heparin. Heparin administered effectively reduces the thrombus formation and may reduce catheter-related infections in patients who have central venous and pulmonary artery catheters in place in case of pulmonary artery disease. The example of the bone cements, the cements are to repair the bone after damage or in case of bone defects. This is the main mode of action of the device to reduce the incidence of joint replacement infection. The antimicrobial agent plays an ancillary role in the function of the device. Last example is latex condoms can be coated with spermicide to increase the effectiveness of pregnancy prevention. The spermicide acts as a backup contraception method in case the condom breaks or tears during sexual intercourse. Spermicide works by inactivating, killing, or damaging sperm. Spermicide does not prevent sexually transmitted diseases. The spermicide plays an ancillary role in the function of the device. To identify the main mode of action for the product and to know if the device is considered a medical device or medicinal substance, you should ask these questions. Is the product intended to act in a pharmacological or immunological metabolic way? Is the product intended to act in a physical or mechanical way? To explain briefly, what does liable to act on a human body mean? Liable to act doesn't mean intended to act. The definition of liable is being likely to do or experience something, exposed to, sometimes unfavorable outcomes. For example, lubricants can be included in the device to help the device to perform its function based on the intended use. The lubricant has been added to the device to act with ancillary role. The lubricant can be in touch with the human body even if the lubricant is not intended to act on the human body. The meaning of the word ancillary. An ancillary product assists the product or the medical device in its function. If the ancillary product's mode of action becomes the primary mode of action for the combination device, then it's no longer an ancillary product, and it also isn't a medical device. Let us take an example of combination medical device. For example, wound dressing, providing a moist environment that promotes faster healing in case of burns, by including an ancillary antimicrobial efficacy to prevent infection and for adjunctive therapy in the treatment of infected wounds. This product falls under the definition of combination medical devices, as main action mode of the device associated to the substance is conducted by the device. The integrated substance just plays an ancillary role. Let's move to an important topic: how combination products are evaluated in the EU. Two general stages should be done for the CE certification for combined medical devices. The first stage, the notified body must verify the usefulness of the substances as part of the medical device and taking into account the intended purpose of the device. The design dossier are examined by the notified body in parallel with the competent authority consultation. Notified body will audit the manufacturer QMS for the device. Notified body is the point contact between manufacturer and competent authority. The second stage, the competent authority will assess data on the quality and safety information of the ancillary medicinal substance, including the clinical benefit over risk profile ratio of the incorporated medicinal substances in the device. The competent authority issues an opinion to the notified body, positive or negative. There can be many rounds of questions and clock stops for both reviews. The notified body will not issue CE certificate until all elements are closed, and the notified body must not go against the EMEA opinion. In this slide, we are listing the important documents the manufacturer should submit to check the status of combined medical devices and conduct the pre-submission of the file to the competent authority, which also called pre-file. Please see MEDEF 2.13 Ref 3. Presentation of context, that's the first document. Presentation of the context, briefly describe on the justification of the application, brief description of the device including intended use and why the device is considered as a combined medical devices, which medicine the device incorporates, identification and concentration, also actions claimed by the manufacturer for the medicinal substances in the device, quality documentation for the medicinal substances and the device medicine combination, see competent authority guidelines and the CDT Model 3. Non-clinical documentation like the pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics of the medicinal substances, clinical evaluation according to the MDD and AIMDD, also the labeling information. The first step of the evaluation procedure is notified body performs the conformity assessment for the device, including audits and design dossier reviews, and verifies the usefulness of the substance as part of the medical device. Here the question is, what is the usefulness of the medical device? What does usefulness mean? The usefulness relates to the rationale for using the medicinal substance in relation to the specific intended purpose of the device. It refers to the suitability of the medicinal substance to achieve its intended action and whether the potential inherent risks due to the medicinal substance are justified in relation to the benefit to be obtained within the intended purpose of the device. By means of consultation process, the competent authority may make available relevant information concerning risk related to the use of substance resulting from pharmacovigilance. The assessment of the usefulness mainly concerning the following topics: description of combined medical devices, assessment of data related to the medicinal substances in the combination, assessment of pharmacodynamics data of the substances, which is the relation between concentration and effect, assessment of pharmacokinetics, data of the substances, relation between the dose and the concentration, assessment of clinical data of the combination, and also risk management related to the addition of medical substances in the medical device, labeling focusing on data and information related to the presence of medicinal substances, expected benefit, contraindications, side effects, and use precautions related to the presence of medicinal substances. The second step, notified body agrees with the competent authority on schedules and sends data to the competent authority. The third step, competent authorities reviews data, considers the use of ancillary medicinal substances regarding the safety, quality, and usefulness. The EMEA reviews some of these if the medicinal substance is innovative or if the substance is new and required to be approved through the centralized procedure. Please check with your competent authority on any special documentation requirements they may have, including time frames, since all competent authorities are a bit different from each other. The fourth step, notified body takes a competent authority opinion into account in its final certification decision. As many of you are concerned about the competent authority's evaluation timeline, upon receipt of the full file, the NSM proceeds to an evaluation of the file eligibility within 15 days. The aim of this evaluation is to make sure that all documents needed are included in the file. According to the MedDev 2.13 Ref 3, competent authority has 210 days to render its opinion after the notified body sends the information. The clock of 210 starts only once the request has been judged eligible, if the elements included in the file are not enough, or if there still are questions, the competent authority can ask the notified body to add some documents to the file or to set a meeting for explaining some items. In this case, the regulatory time is suspended until as answer is provided by the notified body. Upon receipt of the elements, the time of 210 days will be added to the time taken by the notified body to answer the competent authority's questions, certified by the record of delivery. Regarding the additional information or documents, the right number of copies should be sent to the competent authority. There is an important note here. This is the case with the ANSM competent authority, but different competent authorities may have different timelines. Let's talk about changes to the ancillary substances. Where changes are made to an ancillary substances incorporated in the device, in particular related to its manufacturing process, the notified body shall be informed of the changes and shall consult the relevant medicines competent authority. For example, the one involved in the initial consultation, in order to confirm that the quality and safety of the ancillary substances are maintained. The competent authority shall take into account the data related to the usefulness of incorporation of the substances into the device as determined by the notified body. in order to ensure that the changes have no negative impact on the established benefit over risk profile of the additional of the substances in the medical device when the relevant medicines competent authority, for example, the one involved in the initial consultation, has obtained information on the ancillary substances which could have an impact on the established benefit over risk profile of the addition of the substances in the medical devices, it shall provide the notified body with advice. Whether this information has an important or impact on the established benefit over risk profile of the addition of the substances in the medical device or not. The notified body shall take the updated scientific opinion into account in considering its assessment of the conformity assessment procedure. Here are some tips from our experience as to how a medical device manufacturer can help to streamline their combination product submissions. First one, carefully analyze documentation to ensure that all the relevant regulatory requirements are met, include everything needed, and be receptive to the notified body and competent authority and their requests. Thank you for listening. To recap the agenda, we talked about the classification of combination products, important actors, the different definitions of medical device, medicinal products, combined medical devices, important analysis for combination products, how combination products are evaluated, and the documents to be submitted by the company. Okay, so that's just about it. If you have any question, we'll stick around for another 10 minutes or so to answer them. Feel free to type your questions in the chat box on your screen or in the QA box on your screen, and we will do our best to answer them. If we don't get to all of them, we will respond via email. Please feel free to send us an email or give us a call. We are always happy to talk and answer questions for you. Okay, so let's get to the first question.